what you want, because we're not there. We're gone. We're watching you, and we're going to go back to sleep when you leave us alone. So,
well, now there's another theory, and this is a theory that's, I guess it's relatively new, and I think that they link it to, link Bigfoot sightings, Sasquatch sightings to other paranormal activity. Quite often, if there's a Sasquatch sighting, there's also a sighting of a UFO, or there's a sighting of floating orbs. The Skinwalker Ranch in northern Utah has the shape-shifting creatures, and these are just not the folks that have investigated this. These are the Ute Indians and the Navajo Indians for forever have had reports of shapeshifters up near the Skinwalker Ranch. Could these Sasquatch be shape-shifting creatures? Could they be something from another planet? Could this just be some type of a space alien who has taken the form of some creature, animal, to just wander about, and then when we get too close, back up to the craft? That's a theory. That's a theory.
We don't know what we don't know, and we have to. And I put it in the book that you don't have to believe it, but you should, as a researcher, you should at least consider it. You just can't just discount it. You can't say no, that this absolutely is false. No. If you know everything there is to know, I will listen to you. Otherwise, and I know you don't, and I don't know. My education is education by baptism by fire, so to speak. I'm out in the woods a whole lot. Ask my wife. I'm gone a lot. I spent way too much money on equipment. But, we don't know what we don't know. So we can't just blow it off because it's not in your realm of thinking. And that goes back to, you've been taught since you were an embryo that this can exist, this does exist. And so if you open your mind, because these things do occur and so many people are seeing them, there has to be an explanation. Well, we don't have one. Well, then you need to broaden your horizon. Science is no friend of ours in any way, shape, or form, because they want a body on a slab. If we can't look at it, see it, touch it, it doesn't exist. So we have to consider almost everything. Not everything, but almost. You can throw it out later and go, well, that was silly. Or that still might have something. You just keep it in the back of your mind, but you have to consider affectations that they have that we just don't, or we may have had them and we don't.
I like to use, I like to use the scenario of Stephen Hawking. He's passed away now, but when he was still alive, I said, would you say that Stephen Hawking may be the smartest man in the world, one of the smartest men in the world? And most people will say, well, of course he is. I said, okay. And I would agree with you. 100 years from now, will any of his theories be proven wrong? And everybody says, well, of course they will. Well, the smartest man in the world is going to be proven wrong sometime in the future? Of course he will. You've got to consider everything. And I'm not going to say that I'm a science disbeliever, because I'm a big believer in science. However, science changes quite often. As early as the 1960s, doctors thought that menthol cigarettes were good for you. Okay, that wasn't long ago. And it's ridiculous that anyone would think that now. But that's what they thought. Okay?
Yeah.
So you've got to take it, as you say, you have to consider everything until it can be proven false. Then you can scratch it off your list, but you need to keep on going.
Yeah. Man will never fly. Oh, well, never mind. They do fly. Okay, what's next? Things we say can't happen are often proven to be completely viable, or in actuality, later on down the road.
600 years ago, the smartest men in the world were confident that the Earth was flat.
Yeah.
Confident.
Yeah. Well, there's still a couple of their relatives hanging around apparently. You know, but it's true. It's just perception. Einstein, you know, Max Planck, all the abstract theorists, the quantum physics, quantum theory, quantum math people, they've all proven things, and some they have disproved, because it's just the state of intelligence at the time the subject is coming up. You know, we're at a certain spot right now in advancement of mankind. 200 years from now, what are we going to be? Where will we be? You know, we don't know. It's
impossible to say. I mean, we are doing this podcast. I'm here in Eastern Missouri. You're in Western Missouri. We are talking over telephones that basically we both have libraries in the palm of our hand. We have telephones that we stick in our pocket that are more powerful than the most powerful computers just 40 years ago. So where are we going to be in 40 years? It's impossible to say.
Yeah, I'll be dead. Just so you know, I've got plans. I'm going to be gone in 40 years. But yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah, so it's not that you're wrong. It's just that that's a good theory for now. Let's see what happens.
And I like to say, if not this, then what?
Yeah, yeah. And it's just fascinating to me. But one thing I do know is that they are a flesh and blood creature that does exist, and any footprints with dermal ridges, you can't fake that. But they are living, breathing, physical creatures that may have skills or attributes we cannot comprehend. Just because we cannot comprehend it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. People say they vanish in front of my face. They vanish. I was looking, I blinked, and they were gone. Well, maybe they have hair follicles that bend the light, and they appear to disappear, but they're really still standing there. Perhaps you've gone into shock from seeing this, and your mind is creating scenarios to fill in the blank.
Perhaps you've been put into a hypnotic state for a moment or two until the creature can escape.
Yeah, infrasound.
Lots of animals do that. Sure.
Yeah, well, and they say, well, it was there and it just disappeared. Well, that can't be. Well, has anyone ever heard of a chameleon? Has anyone ever heard of an octopus and numerous other reptiles, animals, insects that can alter their physical self to blend in with their surroundings? Octopus, you look at an octopus, it can change so it looks like the seafloor, looks like sand. It's gone, but it's right there. Chameleons, so we say, well, that can't be. The creature just can't disappear. Well, I could just name you about half a dozen right off the bat that can. So that theory goes out the window. So because we've been told they can't do this and they don't exist in the first place, everybody has their ammunition. Well, that can't be. It just can't be. You're seeing things. It's a trick of the eye, a trick of the light, whatever. But I've seen them, and I see the structures they make. I see the footprints. I've got footprints and handprints hanging on my wall in here. Unless there's a massive organized group of people running around the country making fake footprints and handprints with dermal ridges, which I've taken to police labs, and I have proof that they're real. I've got one standing right here, ticking on here in Kansas City area. You can deny it, but you can't realistically deny it. Unless you're just firmly convinced because you don't want to believe it. Looks like a duck, quacks like a duck. It might be a Sasquatch. There's just too much evidence for it. And science's version of evidence does not equal our version of science. because our evidence is our evidence. You explain this. They can't, but if they don't have a body, they don't exist. So that's their pathetic argument, and I put that in the book. I'm not a fan of science, but they're here. They're real. They're flesh and blood. They're in my backyard, your backyard. We talked about a case the other night. They're just real close to you, and there's people having daily and or weekly, monthly interactions with these creatures on a regular, ongoing basis. They've made people's property their home. And I could go on and on about all that. I mean, there's so much evidence for it. And I put evidence in quotation marks because a scientist listening to it right now is going to go, "Oh, you're full of crap."
Well, there are people who leave gifts for them, and they leave gifts back again, and they actually have a relationship. And you mentioned in the book the part that I did get through that. Actually, be careful if you start exchanging gifts with them, because if you stop, they'll get upset.
Yeah, especially if it's food.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're going to give them, one of the places I was at just a few weeks ago, we leave apples, oranges, cantaloupes, squashes, things that they will never find in the wild. And they eat that stuff up. They're not really crazy about oranges. I think it's the citrusy and the bitterness of it. Mm-hmm. Rocks. A dead mouse. They'll gift you a little dead field mouse. They'll gift you a snake, a frog, rocks, a couple of 3 or 4 twigs in a little formation. That's a bipedal hand, 2 arms, 2 legs, head creature doing this. Nothing else. It's opposable thumb doing things that nobody else could do, and I throw out a raccoon when I talk about opposable thumbs or possums because they don't have the same dexterity. But so this stuff is going on, and these people don't want any publicity. They don't want $1 million. They don't want cameras there, and I'm very, very fortunate to be able to go share some of these events with some of these people, and it's mind-boggling. I don't even take my equipment. I don't. When we're interacting with these creatures, I do not take any equipment other than what they may have with them, because I'm a stranger. And a Sasquatch investigator, I'm dripping with equipment. I've got 2 voice recorders. I got 5 or 6 trail cameras. I got thermal gear. I've got all kinds of stuff. And GPS and all this stuff. And they know what that is. They know what that stuff is. And they shy away from it. Why do you think there's no good trail cam photos that we are privy to?
Why haven't we? And there's a question that I'll bring up. Why have we never seen a really good camera trap picture?
I don't say that they don't exist. I think people aren't sharing them.
Okay.
There are a few, and what happens is it is almost too good to be true. So it's 1 in a million. Well, then that 1 in a million becomes, well, that's got to be fake. Mm-hmm. And that is the disdain that we run into in the Bigfoot world. I don't share any of my stuff because I don't want to listen to it. I was there. I know how I got it. I know what it is. I know when it was there. I know exactly what's going on. But you're going to tell me it's a bunch of garbage. So I'm not even going to share it with the public, because why should I? Because that, other than a body on a slab, will prove to anyone that they exist. And even that will be discounted and disputed. Well, that's a dummy. You took a gorilla and added some leg and arm to it and made it. The people will always try to dissuade others from realizing the truth, that there's something out there that we are just not totally familiar with. Yeah, I am. I've been out there enough. I've been doing this for long. I mean, I've seen and heard stuff that just curl a lot of people's toes, but it's exhilarating. It's just fascinating. It's so cool to call out to a creature and have it call back to you, which happened just a few weeks ago. It was just it's the most awesome thing when it happens. And you're communicating with a primordial creature. Just put that in your pipe and smoke it for a while. You're communicating with a possibly prehistoric creature. We don't know. but at least something that goes back